If you experience the ADC error high error for the pressure process sender, this indicates that there is a clog in the exhaust system. Please take note of and clear any errors before proceeding. Caution: incompletely sintered parts can be in the powder state, which can present a respiratory hazard. If a sinter run fails during the debinding stage, the touchscreen will display a red warning indicating that the parts are in a powder state. At this point, do not open the door. As a safety feature, in this state, the furnace is only capable of performing a recovery run and other functions/utilities are limited. If present, please acknowledge this warning so that the following troubleshooting steps can be completed. Once the parts have been completely sintered and cool, the furnace will be safe to open. And as always, be sure to wear nitrile gloves when handling the exhaust filters. To begin clearing our clog, we will want to first turn off the flow of mixed and inert gas. Then, we will turn off the power to the furnace by flipping the breaker on the rear panel. Now, we want to remove the right side panel to access the exhaust assembly. Next, we will remove the exhaust filter canister by unscrewing the T-handle and safely dispose of the old clogged filter. Once the old filter has been removed, we will now remove the exhaust flex line by using our 11/16 wrench to disconnect the swage lock fitting at either end. Once removed, check the flex line for wax buildup inside the tube. Next, we will check the white Teflon gasket for deformation and debris. If the gasket is deformed, replace it and clean if necessary. Even a small amount of debris on the gasket can cause a leak. Now, we will check the inlet of the exhaust filter mounting block. This is the most common location of wax buildup that causes clogs. If necessary, use a supplied pipe cleaner to clear the channel of buildup. You can determine whether this channel is unclogged by shining a light through the top of the filter fitting. Once we have checked and cleaned the components of the exhaust filter system, we can now check and clean the moisture sensor block and exhaust solenoid components. In order to clean the moisture sensor block and exhaust solenoid components, we must first remove the rear panel. With the rear panel removed, we can begin to disassemble the exhaust solenoid. We will start by prying off the red cap. Then, we will press in on the green valve coil body to allow the tool-free removal of the nameplate. We can now slide the coil body and washer off of the solenoid and set them aside for reassembly. Next, we will use our 1-inch deep socket to remove the solenoid. Take note of the orientation of components inside the solenoid for proper reassembly later. Now we will unplug the moisture sensor cable from our moisture sensor. We will then use the 30mm wrench to remove the moisture sensor. It is important to get a feel for the tightness of the moisture sensor itself so you will know how much torque to apply when reassembling later. Once the moisture sensor has been removed, we will want to check the threads for any excess thread tape that was left behind. We can now begin to disconnect the remaining pipes that connect to the moisture sensor block and exhaust solenoid. Using our 11/16 wrench, we will start with the U-shaped pipe that connects the moisture sensor to the exhaust solenoid. Next, we will want to loosen but not remove the 4 mounting screws on the exhaust filter housing. This will give us the freedom of movement to remove the wide U-shaped pipe that connects from the exhaust filter to moisture sensor. Once the mounting screws have been loosened, again, we will want to use our 11/16 wrench to remove both ends of this wide U-shaped pipe, first at the exhaust filter, then at the bottom of the moisture sensor block. We will now remove the wide weldment below the exhaust solenoid. Make sure to disconnect the wide weldment from the exhaust port on the back of the sensor as well. Once all components and pipes have been removed, we will first want to take pictures of the exhaust solenoid and moisture sensor. This will be helpful in documenting any problems that may arise. Once we have snapped our photos, we will want to use our pipe cleaner to clean the exhaust solenoid and moisture sensor blocks. Once we have cleared out both the moisture sensor block and exhaust solenoid, we will want to shine a light through the top and bottom of both components. This will help verify that there is no more debris or clogs in these components. We would then use our pipe cleaners to clean and clear all pipes that were removed. If necessary, you can drop these pipes in the wash for no more than 2 minutes. This may be necessary for components with a sharp 90-degree angles. Again, we can use a flashlight to verify that the components are clean and clear of debris. Once all components are cleaned and dry, we can begin reassembly. We will simply reassemble in the reverse order, starting with the wide weldment. We will want to make sure we finger tight all connections first before we fully tighten any of the connections. All while using our proper swage lock tightening procedures. It is especially important while reinstalling the wide U-shaped pipe below the moisture sensor block and exhaust filter to finger tighten before using any tool to prevent the possibility of cross-threading this connection. Once we have reinstalled our pipes, we will now reassemble the moisture sensor and exhaust solenoid. To begin this process, we will first verify that all old pipe tape has been removed from the threads. Then, we will apply about 2.5 to 3 full wraps of new pipe tape, making sure not to get any of the tape on the first threads of the connector. We can now reinstall the moisture sensor and use our 30mm wrench to tighten. We want to make sure we match the torque that had been applied previously. Once properly tightened, we can reconnect the moisture sensor cable. We can now reassemble the exhaust solenoid. Again, pay close attention to the orientation of internal components when reassembling. Once the solenoid has been properly tightened, we can reassemble the coil body. First slide the washer on, then the green coil body. Now, use the mating feature to reassemble and mount the faceplate of our solenoid. We will finish this assembly by reapplying the red cap. At this point, we can now reconnect the back panel of the sinter, replace our exhaust filter, and properly reconnect and tighten the exhaust flex line to the end cap and filter housing. Once all components have been reassembled, we will restore flow of gas to our sinter, power the sinter back up, and perform a static pressure check. If there is still a leak detected or a clog with the static pressure check, please contact support immediately.